What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another NBA Rundown brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Sports and Run Pure Bets. I'm your host, Spread Astaire, joined today by Tyler Hicks and Hoop. Hoop, we haven't seen you for a couple weeks. Catch us up. I haven't talked to you. All I've seen is these screenshots of Showdown wins.
Yeah, Showdown has been treating me kindly. There's no doubt about that. But excited to be back talking some NBA. We've got a nice slate tonight. We got some injury news that we'll obviously discuss. But yeah, everything's been going well, and excited to be back picking winners with you guys.
Yeah, Tyler, we had two high-profile games last night. The Nets squeaked one out against the Knicks. The Knicks got the cover, so that was nice. But, boy, their fans wanted to win. They were pretty disappointed. And then the Golden State Warriors, boy, Steph Curry's worst game in like five years. What were your takeaways from those two high-profile games last night, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, the New York game, of course, it stayed just like we thought, the highest margin of victory. Now in the last four matchups, it's still only 7 points. Those two matchups are always close. So it was nice to get that win. But, I mean, Mikal Bridges pretty much put Steph in a straitjacket. He just didn't let him do much, even running around the screens. He couldn't get open and get these shots off, couldn't get into a rhythm. So we'll see how Phoenix fares once the postseason starts again, see if another CP3-led team folds in the end. But it should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to upgrade Phoenix, right? Because it's not like Steph just shot bad and Phoenix had nothing to do with that. They played great defense. I was personally a little surprised. But, if you're a Suns backer or you have a Suns ticket, you had to be encouraged by that performance. Let's jump into tonight. The first game, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now out to plus 4.5 against the Wizards. Tyler, I was telling you before we went on, originally, this Minnesota side intrigued me a little bit, but two reasons I stayed off. One, I do think the Wizards is kind of like a buy low spot. I've been high on them overall. They're going through a rough patch, but I don't want to fade them. When I'm not getting value here. But this line moved to 4.5, and I think that's because of this news, right? With Jaden McDaniels is out for sure. Patrick Beverley hasn't played for a while, but the big one that sticks out to me, of course, Anthony Edwards, questionable with an illness. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed tonight. So I'm staying away there. I almost think if Anthony Edwards is out, you could look at Washington, but the lines moved against us. We'll start with you, Tyler. What are your thoughts on the Timberwolves and the Wizards?
Yeah, I was in the same place as you. I seen Timberwolves +4. Wizards are kind of reeling right now, and Timberwolves are rolling. So I wanted to take the +4. But then you see the flu-like symptoms running through the locker room. So we got to wait and see which guys are rolled out. But one prop I liked right off the bat, even with the guys that are already rolled out, because McDaniels is already rolled out, Vanderbilt's questionable. That really leaves only Cat under the hoop to get the rebounds. His rebounds prop is set at 10.5. And Washington's giving up 15 rebounds to opposing centers. So he could have a big rebounding night tonight if there's two other guys in the front court miss.
Yeah, and our guy Pocket QB's in the chat because him and I were messaging about this illness and what to make of it. Neither of us are really sure why this is happening. Is this players, getting COVID, but they're vaccinated, so it just goes down as illness because they can come back right away with just two negative tests, or is there just some terrible flu strain? Right? There's not only one illness in the world, right? It could be something else, but it's definitely hitting a lot of teams. Hoop. If A1's out, if Anthony Edwards is out, how do you approach this game, right? Because you're going to have some interest on the Minnesota side. What are your thoughts, the side? And of course, who would you approach if Anthony Edwards misses?
Yeah, I mean, not a ton of interest on the side here. I mean, I guess if Edwards is out, obviously that's a pretty big boost to the Wizards. But I don't know if it's like a game changer in terms of like any side in terms of betting. But for DFS purposes, if Edwards out, Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell will both get like a big boost. The price tag for Towns is better on FanDuel. He's like 8.8K, but the 9.5K price tag on DK is also very appealing. So Towns, I think, would be the biggest beneficiary from a DFS purpose, and he'd probably be a guy that borderline I prioritize tonight and I build around. So it's a 7 p.m. Eastern game. It's when the slate locks. We will have the news, so there'll be plenty of time to react. But man, I mean, just look at the rest of the guys around them that'll be playing. I mean, it's just such a good spot for Cat. And D'Angelo Russell at all. I mean, his price tag does scare me a little bit, 8.4K. He has the tendency to kind of come out and be disinterested at times, and that's always a risk with Russell. So for me, preferred option would be Cat if Edwards is out. But if Edwards is in, this game overall for DFS is pretty much a fade. I mean, we have really, really good value that we'll get to as we break down the slate. We also have some spends that I'm interested in as well. So this game would be way down the list for me in terms of DFS. Wizards are just one of those teams we always talk about it on the Hardwood shows. Like, there's too many guys for fantasy purposes. They're all priced appropriately for the most part. Like, I just can't really do it. If I was going to go anywhere, it would be Bradley Beal in tournaments, but that's about it. Not the best game for DFS purposes if Edwards is in.
All right, yeah, so sum it up. Edwards in, we can fade the game. If Edwards is out, so, Russell and Towns, those are the obvious one. Malik Beasley here at 4,500, do you think he grabs some of that usage? And, I guess my main concern there is he's really points dependent, right? He does get some rebounds, but you're not going to get assists, you're not getting steals, you're not getting blocks, kind of points dependent. But if he gets that extra boost at 4,500, is he worth a look?
So on a different slate, potentially, but we got this news that Paul George is going to sit today. So, the value plays on the Clippers are just so much better than Malik Beasley tonight. And then we have the news that Bam, unfortunately, is going to miss time, Bam Adebayo, up to 6 weeks. So we have Dwayne Dedmon as well, who's really cheap and could get more value if Jimmy Butler does sit. And that game's at 7:30 Eastern, so we should have the news here in time as well. So on a different slate, a guy like Malik Beasley would make sense, but on this slate where we're going to have just endless value, I don't think it's necessary.
All right, that's why we like having you on, Hoop. Quick to just take the stand. And hey, we didn't prepare these questions. I'm just peppering him, and he's ready to answer right off the top. So appreciate that. Let's move to the Atlanta Hawks. +1 heading to Indiana to take on the Pacers. Totals 218. Pacers been a team that's really struggled with injuries. They've not really had a full lineup. They are starting to get healthy, and they are playing better. Atlanta, of course, struggling with injuries a little bit as well. The news we're waiting for on this game: Cam Reddish is questionable, and Miles Turner questionable. Turner missed the last game against Minnesota, and they miss him greatly on the defensive end. I like Atlanta in this game. I think that, they're just a better team. And even if Turner plays and Reddish sits, I still think we're good. I think Atlanta has so much more depth here. And I just don't, I can already kind of, Capella to me is a little better than Turner, especially for what he's asked to do on this team. And if Turner's out, Sabonis obviously gets a big bump on DFS, but I don't know if that's enough to overcome a Hawks team that I think is really solid. Tyler, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the Pacers and the Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I like the Hawks. I think they're the better team. I think they have the better coach right now. Carlisle is a great coach, but this is a new roster for him he's using this year, so it's going to take a little time. Mm-hmm. With Trae Young getting guarded by Brogdon, that could be a little bit of an issue, but because Brogdon's a bigger guard, but Trae Young's so good, I think he'll be able to overcome that. Just like you said, they're the deeper team. I think Indy's only favored because they're at home in this game, but that 218 seems a bit short, doesn't it? Couldn't you see these two teams putting up a ton of points here?
Yeah, especially if Turner's out, because then they're going to go so much smaller and quicker. And I think Atlanta will be fine to go ahead and play that pace of basketball. They have no problems playing that high-paced game. So I'm with you there on the total, especially if Turner sits. Hoop, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you guys on the Hawks side. Really like the Hawks in this spot. To me, they're just a better team. And, the Pacers have this situation going on with Turner. Who knows if he's in or out. I don't think it really affects my opinion on this game, regardless of his status. I like the Hawks in this spot. But DFS-wise, it kind of flips a little bit. The Hawks are a tough team for DFS purposes. They have a lot of guys they mix and match. They have a lot of guys that they run with. They have a lot of guys that they're willing to give some solid usage to. So it makes it very difficult for DFS purposes. We talk about these teams a lot on the shows where, for DFS, they need some injuries. And yes, the Cam Reddish thing is out there, but they're a team, they need multiple guys out to really consider them for DFS purposes on full slates like we have tonight. We have 9 games. But on the Pacers side, we could have the injury situation that we want with Turner. If he's out, you last game, Brogdon, LeVert, Sabonis had a monster game. Those 3 would all get a big boost and become viable for DFS purposes. Brogdon is only 7.2, I believe, on FanDuel. That's a great price tag for him. Still don't even hate the 7.7 on DK. LeVert is playable on both sites. And like I said, Sabonis just absolutely went off last game for, what do you have, 16 points, like 25 rebounds.
25 rebounds.
Yeah, 67 fantasy points. So I'd be willing to go right back to him if Turner's out. I mean, he'll play all the minutes he can handle. He's going to, soak up all those rebounds. I think he would be a phenomenal play. But if he's in, honestly, not a ton of interest in this game.
All right. So, yeah, I think the best way to approach this game, grab the Hawks, take that money line, and go ahead and move on. So we'll see. Obviously, Sabonis worth a look if Turner misses. But, I don't think – well, at least it's a 7-10 start, right? So we'll get the news before the slate locks. The Denver Nuggets are -7.5, heading to Orlando to take on a Magic team that, so they're getting people back, right? Because they're going to have Cole Anthony back tonight, right? So we were riding some of those other guys on the Magic. I think that they're now out of play. As far as betting this game, I mean, I guess you can take the Nuggets, but Hoop's going to get into this. I mean, who's going to play guard for this team? I mean, what terrible news for this Denver team now, losing Austin Rivers and Bones Highland after they had previously lost PJ Dozier for the year. So, I mean, Tyler, I guess I lean the Nuggets because who really wants to hold an Orlando Magic ticket? But this is a really tough game. Tyler, are you still with us or did your computer freeze?
No, I'm here.
Okay, good.
But looking at this game, I mean, yes, they're getting Cole Anthony back, but Suggs is now out. So they're still going to play that little game of trying to figure out where their offense is going to come from. Wagner's playing better. But to touch on the Denver guard situation, Monty Morris and Campazzo should get all the minutes there unless somebody gets into foul trouble. One prop I love is Monty Morris's points, rebounds, and assists is 19.5. He's hit that in his last 3 games with both of those guys in the lineup. Now they're out. Those minutes have to go to him or Campazzo. If he plays extended minutes here and touches 35 minutes, he's definitely going to get you at least 20 there.
All right. Yeah. So, not really sure what to make of this side. Hoop, why don't you go ahead and venture in the waters and see if you want to take a stand. And then, of course, go over all the great options that the Denver Nuggets have with all those players out on the DFS aspect.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Nuggets situation, it's unfortunate that, those guys, that they lost those guys. But to me, I think it can almost help them because it's going to stabilize their rotation a little bit. The rotation kind of been a little funky as of late, but now like you said, it's going to be Monty Morris, it's going to be Campazzo, Jokic is back, Barton is very capable of handling the ball. So from like a wins-loss perspective, I don't think it's the worst thing for this team. And I like the Nuggets here. Like you said, who the hell wants to bet on the freaking Orlando Magic? I mean, just a complete dumpster.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 13 or more is like my threshold, right? When I see plus 13, now I'm interested. But single digits, I'm not taking them.
No, I'll take the Nuggets. I actually like the Nuggets quite a bit in this game. I mean, Jokic looked really good in his return. They blew out the Heat. Well, I mean, the Heat didn't really – all their guys were out, but they blew them out. They look good. I mean, like I said, the guys are going to play here. Now DFS-wise, not the greatest spot just because these guys are all like kind of priced up a little bit because of all the run they got with Jokic being out, and their prices haven't come down. Monty Morris is 5.3, and I do like that bet. I think that's a very strong bet because he's going to have to play a lot. He's going to have the ball in his hands. So the over on his statistics makes a ton of sense here. But DFS wise, just no one really has a standout price tag that I'm like, I gotta go there. And a lot of that is because of the Clippers situation that we have tonight without Paul George and his massive usage rate. So love the Denver side as a bet. It looks, what is it, like 7.5 or 8? I think that's just a really strong play here. And the Magic, they're getting some guys back, but it might take a few games for them to kind of get into form, and their form's not all that good anyway with the healthy roster. So I'm not playing any of these Magic guys, and honestly, not many. There are probably no Nuggets either because of the price tags.
Yeah, I agree with you. Right when I first saw that news, my first thought was Barton season, but 7,300, man, that's just pretty much too high for a guy. He's getting 30. I don't know if, like, you guys talk about the ceiling. I don't know if the ceiling's there with him, right? I don't see a night where he like absolutely goes off unless like Jokic like re-injured his wrist, and now you're really getting funky. Trying, that's a million scenarios that have to hit for him to get there. Maybe a 3-game slate, right? We're interested, not tonight. The Philadelphia 76ers plus 2.5. This line's been just yo-yoing all. This was up to 5. I mean, this is why I like getting up early and watching these, right? So I get up, between 4:45 and 5:15 out here, but I'm not that early because it's still 8 o'clock for you guys out there. And this line moved all the way to 5, and I said, boy, did someone know something about Embiid? And then it just yo-yoed right back to 2.5, which I think is a pretty good line. I don't see much here on this injury report. Of course, Jaylen Brown questionable, but we've known that for a while. Schrader will play. Williams will play. I like Robert Williams a lot as a player. I don't know how good he is as a DFS prospect here. I think if this is a healthy team, this is really tough, right? Because what was the Celtics' weakness always, like the last couple of seasons? What we say, they're going to struggle inside. They get beat by good bigs, right? But they brought back Al Horford, who for some reason just plays really well against Embiid. I don't know if it's that veteran thing or him just not being intimidated by being the smaller guy, but he's always given Embiid problems here. Very interesting. I lean towards Boston. I didn't get involved. I wasn't really sure exactly what to make of it, and I don't trust my numbers on either of these teams because so many players have been in and out of the lineups. It's not really a fair sample size. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on this one. I think it's a wait and see with this game. I think it's the perfect game to live bet. I think both teams will have the lead at some point in this game.
Good point. Because
you figure Philly could get up easily, and if Boston gets up, they always blow leads. So Philly could definitely come back. I kind of like Embiid's points prop at 23.5 because I think that's a bit short, even with Horford on the other side. I mean, he stopped.
I think they lowered it because of Horford, so you could take advantage of that.
I'm not as much scared of Horford anymore. It was a couple years ago. He was keeping him contained. I mean, he's lost a step. Embiid should be.
Yeah, but when you're in the post, does it matter, right?
I think
you don't need the speed in the post.
You need it a little bit.
Yeah.
If he beats you off the spin move, I mean, you're kind of behind him now.
I'm just saying, if I can get him to try and face up on me all night, I feel like I've won. I just don't want Embiid backing me down. Like, let him face up, let him try and play like a guard, and I feel like that's a win. So that's something to watch early. If Horford's able to do that, right, that means Embiid's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, then maybe you live bet Boston just outright, and then they win the game. So I think it's definitely a wait and see with this game. But other than that, nothing really impresses me in this game to bet.
Yeah, Hoop, we've talked a lot about this game, not really taking a side here. Are you ready to plant a flag? Are you ready to lead us out of the wilderness here in a game that I think is very tough to handicap?
Yeah, it's going to be a 3 for 3. We're going to be locked arm in arm here because it's just, I don't know. I mean, I could see it going any way. I mean, first off, don't, force yourself into just betting games to bet them. But like if I was going to do it, I guess I'd just take the points because they just seem like two similar teams to me. The 76ers, Celtics, I wouldn't be shocked at like any scenario. If one team blows out the other, close game that goes down to the finish, like nothing would shock me in this game. So yeah, if I was going to do anything, I guess I'd take the 76ers, but fantasy wise, again, not the greatest game here. Celtics are a tough team when they're at full strength for fantasy purposes. A lot of guys that demand the ball, Brown, Tatum, Schroeder, Horford. It's just not the greatest spot for fantasy. And then on the 76ers side, you can always play Embiid, I think, like in tournaments if you want, but I think there's better ways to spend your salary today. Tobias Harris is just simply too expensive with Embiid in there. So, I mean, it's a slate where there's a lot of games I'm going to be crossing off fantasy-wise, and honestly, this is another. We'll get to some good plays, though, I promise, along the way, but this isn't it.
No, and I think this is great, right? Because you guys say, oh, hey, this is the bet show. You guys are out here giving on bets, right? But, this is an old adage, right? I'm not the first one to say this, and I won't be last. What is our disadvantage as bettors? We have to lay minus 110 to win 100, right? That's where the books get their edge. Like, everyone says the books are so sharp. The books are so sharp. At minus 110, it's pretty easy to be sharp with that huge advantage. What is our advantage as bettors? We don't have to bet every game. They have to line every game. We don't have to bet it. So this game is that perfect example of that. The talk about line moves, I took advantage of this one. The Cleveland Cavaliers down to plus 3.5. Miami Heat minus 3.5 now. This game was 6.5. Mostly sixes when I finally got out of bed. So those sevens were while I was sleeping. Cavaliers got hit early, and why not? They're 14-6-1 against the spread this season. And I even with Bam in it, I like the Cavaliers matchup because I think the way, just like with Boston, right? I want to go big to try and beat this Miami team. I think Bam's a great center. What I really want to do, though, is just be bigger than him because he's real quick, right? He's great on the perimeter. I want to be bigger and stronger than him. And I got 3 guys that are taller than him. I love the way that matchup set up. Now he's out, right? That's going to be really interesting to see how they're able to counter that. I still like Cleveland at 3.5. Glad I got the number I got. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, love the number you got at the 6.5. I mean, even at the 3, I still like it. I think Cleveland's going to win this game outright. I think just like a couple NBA rundowns before this, there was a certain matchup. I believe it was the Bulls and the Pacers with Vucevic out.
And I was wrong on that one. So
you
guys
it's
got
like
that
they are
one.
going to have a giant disadvantage on the inside getting rebounds. We're in that same situation right here. Allen, Mobley, Markkanen, they're going to eat on the boards tonight against this Miami team. Like, if Dedmon misses too, what big men are they going to send out there to get the rebounds? Jimmy Butler can only grab so many for him if he even plays. So it's definitely Cleveland or no play for me here. But, I mean, maybe an under. What do you guys think of that? I think it's a bit low, though.
Yeah, it could be one of those games. I mean, definitely could be a grinded out, nasty type game. And, if Jimmy Butler's out, even more so. But, I agree there. I mean, I would definitely be on the Cavs here. I mean, or bet the Cavs here. I still like it at this number. Jimmy Butler in or out, obviously you get the Cavs +3. If Butler's out, I mean, the Cavs could potentially be favored in this spot. And I still think the 3 is a fair number, even if he's in. DFS wise, like Bam out, big boost for Dedmon, who I guess I didn't realize, but he's questionable too. So if he were to miss, it would be just a disaster for this team in terms of their bigs. I mean, they'd have no one. If Butler's out, I mean, Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero get a big boost. Duncan Robinson, I don't know. I mean, he'll pop in the projections and whatnot, but he busted last game with all these guys out. The price isn't like super, super cheap. So I guess he's the one I'd be least excited about. Cavs side, they just have a lot of guys right now. And we were playing these guys a ton when they had a bunch of injuries, but now all their guys are kind of back. So it's a tough team for DFS purposes. But the Heat, it's pretty contingent on Jimmy Butler and I guess Dedmon too. I didn't realize he was questionable too, but if Dedmon's in, it's only 3.1K on DraftKings. He's going to be a very popular play.
Yeah, Duncan Robinson, I missed on that night too, right? And so here was our idea going into the game. Oh, well, he'll suck up all of Hero's usage, right? He'll be great. But the problem was when I watched, and I don't want to overreact to one game. This was one game. But he got more attention too. And he needs to be open. He can't create, right? Which is fine. Yeah, there's a role for a guy who can shoot 40% behind the arc and just sits there and gives space for the other talented creators to work. But when people went out, I don't think he gets the same bump that some of these other guys do because I felt like he got more attention from the defense. So that's
Before
really
we move
interesting.
On to the next game spread, we do player performance doubles.
I want to hear it.
We're all pretty much in lock that the Cavs are the side here. I think they win the game outright. Mm-hmm. Jared Allen should have a day under the hoop. Him to have a double-double in Cleveland win is +300. I think that's a nice play. You could even that. You could even go Jared Allen 12+ rebounds in Cleveland win at +400. I think both of those are nice bets in this game.
Yeah, I like that as well. So that's if you have advantage of that. That's on FanDuel, right, for everybody watching?
Yep, that's on FanDuel.
Yeah, player performance doubles definitely a way to get that way you don't have to lay the points, right? We saw with that Pacers Timberwolves game, right? How a lot of times these games can come right down to the last basket. You don't have to worry about that. You just watch your team win, and a meaningless layup doesn't shatter your evening and the point spread. Dallas Mavericks -3.5 heading to New Orleans to take on a Pelicans team that has played a little better since the return of Brandon Ingram. Hoop, you and I are both down on the Mavericks here, but they're playing one of the worst teams in the league. My numbers say to take the Mavericks. I'm just so down on them. I didn't do it. We'll start with you on this one, Hoop. What are your thoughts on this Mavericks team that you and I are both down on, but we're probably even lower on the Pelicans, right?
Yeah, I love betting against the Mavericks, but a matchup with the Pelicans makes that pretty damn difficult. Right? They're just a dusty team, which is, I guess, pretty disappointing when you look at the Pelicans roster, because that seems like a pretty competent roster, like Brandon Ingram, Valanciunas, Graham, Hart, Alexander Walker. They have pieces, but man, they just have not been able to figure it out. I'm going to flip flop here and be on Dallas a little bit. I don't mind them minus the 3.5. For fantasy though, this game is just not that great. I mean, the one guy I would consider would be Brandon Ingram. The price is cheap. He's 7.5K on DraftKings. Finally had a good game. I mean, it had been a long time since he had a good game. Finally had a 40 fantasy point game against the Clippers. Maybe he found something. Maybe he gets it going a little bit. So he would be the one guy that would play. Valanciunas continues to have these big fantasy performances, but the price has caught up. I mean, 9.2K. It's a tough price tag for a guy like Valanciunas. So my favorite on this side would be Ingram, and then on the Mavs side, I don't think I'm going to spend all the way up on Luka. If I'm spending up, it's probably going to be somewhere else in one of the few games that we have to talk about still. So, not going to really be on the Mavs here. Ingram, like I said, is my favorite play on the Pelicans, and I have a lean for the Mavericks in this spot.
Yeah, I think you're right about this Pelicans roster. It seems like it's got a bunch of talented players. I think the big issue is, except for Valanciunas, right? All those guys that you named, I consider them to be kind of one-way players, right? They got rid of Bledsoe, who whatever, but at least he could play like somewhat competent defense. Lonzo is an excellent defender. I don't know why you switch him for Devontae Graham. That didn't make any sense to put more one-way players on the roster. The only player that really provides you good defense is Valanciunas, and even then, he's not, he's not like a Clint Capella, right, or a Miles Turner around the rim. So a bunch of great people with the ability to score, but they just can't get stops when they need it. Tyler, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, as for the side, we're going to do the old Jimmy Butler, ball it up, throw it over your shoulder, because I don't want to back either of these teams. I mean, Dallas, I think Dallas is going to be the right side, but I'm still not sold on them. I don't want to back them here. The only thing I do like in this game, Willie Cauley-Stein's out. Kristaps Porzingis isn't a big man that's going to keep Joe Val away from the hoop. He should dominate this game, I think, unless Dwight Powell comes in and mans up, but I don't see that happening. His points props 18.5. I think he's definitely good for 20-plus points in this game with no Willie Cauley-Stein to keep him out of the paint.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about DFS and the bets correlating. You got a guy at 9,200 that's his point props is only 18, right? I mean, something seems wrong there. I mean, he's not going to get that many rebounds there. I love your look on that one, Tyler. I think that might be the best way to approach this game. Here's one that we were talking about, Tyler. These teams just play each other. You know what? We'll just relegate them and just have them play each other for the rest of the season. I'm talking about the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think this will be the final time they meet this year. They've already played 3 times. The Rockets have won 2-1. One of them was earlier this week. It was Monday. Bobby Gomes was on. I wasn't sure about this game. Bobby said, bet the Rockets. I bet the Rockets. Sent them the DM to say thank you, as they easily got it home. Now they run it back, but this time it's an OKC. The books say these teams are even because, it's about -2.5 when they're in Houston. Now it's -2.5 for the Thunder and OKC. I don't mind those power ratings. I think they're doing a good job. Tyler, you and I were high on this rookie class, but they still have a lot of development to go. What are your thoughts on the Rockets and the Thunder?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. I mean, I swear every time I look at the NBA board, these two teams are matched up. So this should be the last matchup for them as they play 4 games. But I seen after we started the show, Josh Giddey got rolled out, and also did Mike Muscala and Darius Baisley got a questionable tag. So really don't want to get involved on OKC. So small lean to the Houston side. But still with Garaba out and Jalen Green, it's tough to back them. So it's probably going to be a stay away for me. I actually like the under 216 in this game more than the side.
Interesting. All right. I actually didn't know that news. Hoop, I thought we were going to completely skip this game, but with that news that Tyler just mentioned, Josh Giddey, a pretty big usage guy. I mean, is there a way that we end up with some OKC players on these rosters?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably going to have to look at some of these guys, unfortunately. The news kind of
Unfortunately.
broke. Yeah, I think it broke as we were hopping on, so I haven't had a chance to
Yeah.
fully dive in. But I mean, right out of the gate, I mean, Gilgeous-Alexander obviously gets a pretty big boost. I mean, with no Giddey. Giddey's, I mean, like you said, his usage has been up there. Lou Dort, and then Baisley's questionable too. So I mean, we could have a team that's relatively thin. So have to crunch some things and look around. But, SGA and Lou Dort right out of the gate get a pretty substantial boost. And then on the Rockets side, Porter Jr., I think, is in play for fantasy purposes. Jayshawn Tate's been playing well. Christian Wood's coming off the big game. So it's one of those games that we always joke about, like the league, people with NBA League Pass, like the only people watching this game are going to be DFS players and sports bettors, because this is just like a dumpster fire game. And yeah, it just seems like these teams have played each other just nonstop this season. It's a crappy game, but it could be good for fantasy and sports betting. I don't hate going right back to the Rockets. I mean, Giddey out, I think, is pretty substantial. I don't know what's the adjusted line.
It's still +2.
Still the same. Okay.
I don't think. Well, first of all, I don't think they take much of a handle on it. So I think if they put a wrong lineup, they're not even tripping. What are they going to get hit for? Like 10K, right? It's not. Not going to matter a lot. But yeah, I actually really like them. And it's funny because you and I watch more basketball than our friends and family would like. And I have watched all these games. And you know what? It's kind of nice. It's like I watched a lot of G League too, and it has the same sort of feel. So that's where we're going for that game. The Hornets are now +8.5, heading to Milwaukee to take on the Bucks, who are finally full strength, which probably takes them out of the equation when we're going to DFS. I'm looking. Oh, they added DeMarcus Cousins. All right, he'll be in there tonight. Oh, Brook Lopez still out. Mason Plumlee will be out. Cody Martin is questionable, and Jordan Nwora is probable. Start with you, Tyler. I kind of crossed this game off my list. My numbers came out to 9. It's 8.5. Not really much of an edge to get involved. What are your thoughts?
I pretty much did the same thing as you, but there was one prop that stuck out to me like a sore thumb. Giannis's rebounds prop is 12.5. You look at this injury report. Mason Plumlee's out. You look at the Charlotte roster behind him for the bigs. You got guys like PJ Washington, Miles Bridges, Nick Richards. None of these guys are keeping Giannis off the boards. Mm-hmm. I know 12.5 seems high. Four of his last 6 games, 19 rebounds, 20 rebounds, 13 and 13. The 2 games he didn't get it, they won one of those games by 31 points, the other one by 21. So I think he's definitely getting you close to 15 rebounds tonight. There shouldn't be a guy keeping him off the boards here unless the ball is just bouncing away from him. I think that's definitely the bet in this game is the over on his rebounds.
All right, so Tyler thinks he's going to fill up the stat sheet. Highest price player on the slate there, Hoop. But, I don't know if we want any of these periphery guys, but do we spend up for Giannis here?
Yeah, I think if you're going all the way up top, I think he's clearly the guy. It's easier to play him on FanDuel than on DraftKings, but he's in play on both. I mean, the price tag it's right. I mean, it should be this high. He's probably the best fantasy player in the league, and we're going to have all the value in the world to make it happen. So I think he's very viable tonight for fantasy purposes. Drew Holiday is another guy I have interest in. Finally starting to put up some big scores. I mean, over 40. Over 43 in 2 out of his last 3 games. It's a good matchup. I mean, they have a huge team total, 120. So, I mean, they're projected to score here. I think Chris Middleton's interesting, better price tag on FanDuel, same as Bobby Portis in play, more on FanDuel. But the 9 number seems fair, seems accurate. I don't want any part of that. But for fantasy purposes, some of these Bucks guys are interesting. If PJ Washington starts, they had some random dude start for him last game, but he still did get 31 minutes. So I think PJ Washington at 5.1K is an okay play on DraftKings. But yeah, love Giannis, Drew, some Middleton, some Portis. It's definitely a good team to load up on fantasy wise.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that was more Bucks than I expected, especially with all the news. So that's why.
I mean, the main thing, like Drew just has a good price tag, 6.9K on DK. That's a real good price for a guy that can get you 50.
Yeah. All right, that's why I enjoy talking to you when you come on these shows. The final game, and of course, you're going to be all over this from a DFS perspective. We'll start with the betting now. The Sacramento Kings plus 5.5, heading to Los Angeles to take on the Clippers. Total 215. So the Kings played the Lakers last night. They were up by 13 at one point in the fourth quarter, and then the Lakers went on a 40-8 run. Jonathan Nelson in the chat was happy about that. Us up here in Sacramento, we're kind of upset, but hey, we are used to it. So this Kings team, I wrote this morning, I didn't realize Paul George was out. If he played, I'm like, this is just a smash spot. It's a terrible situational spot having to travel to LA. Team's obviously demoralized. They got the 2-game bump off Gentry, but now it's back to business as usual. I think Fox has definitely been negatively affected by the addition of another point guard, right? And it's almost like I told you guys yesterday, Tyler, when you and Travis were on, but the Aaron Rodgers effect. Like, why do you keep drafting people at my position? Like, get me some help. I thought I was the guy here, right? And it's starting to show in his play. The defense has been absolutely terrible. I don't know if he's trying to get traded or not, but before the season, I would have never traded him. Now I'm open to hear offers as a Kings fan. Long story short, even at this short number, we'll take the superstar subtraction. I like the Clippers here, but I don't love it like I did with PG in at 7.5. At 5.5, I still think the Clippers is the right side. Tyler, am I too far down on my hometown heroes?
No, I mean, they're a bad team. I'm not just going to sit there and shit on them, though. But I just don't see I don't see how they have a path. I mean, every NBA team has a path of victory in a game, but I just don't see how they win this game. Like, usually they get matchups where their guards are able to run rampant on teams. Mm-hmm. Well, even with Paul George out, you still got guys like Reggie Jackson, Bledsoe, Kennard, Terrence Mann, Marcus Morris is back. So there's still going to be guys that are flinging up threes and putting points on the board for the Clippers. So I still think they're the right side, but I think you're going to be able to get a better number live than the 5.5. I think you could wait and get them at plus money maybe in the first quarter while they're still filling things out with Paul George out. And then they just come running back and then they take the game over and win it. But other than that, I'm staying away from this one too.
All right, Hoop, talk to me about your thoughts on the side. And then I think the question that's going to be on all the Run Pure Sports show, how many Clippers are too many?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big number tonight in terms of the Clippers that you want in your lineups. I mean, I'd say a minimum of 3 up to, you could play 4 and maybe even 5, and depending on what sort of contest you're in. But a lot of these guys are going to be phenomenal plays. Now, before I get into those guys in terms of the side, I know I'm going to have so much exposure to this game where I have no need to bet it like whatsoever. So I'm just it doesn't matter to me. The Kings are a disaster. It's unfortunate too. And, Fox was in line to play probably like 38 or 39 minutes before the blowout last night. And he played 36 and then came out, I think, with 2 or 3 minutes to go, playing a ton of minutes, but almost looks like he's deferring like as often as he can. If he has any opportunity to just defer, he's going to do it. Definitely can't play him on DraftKings at 8.8, but he's like 7.5 or 7.6 on FanDuel. Maybe somewhat appealing, but man, it's been a rough ride for him as of late, and the team overall is a disaster. Unfortunately for you, I mean, your hometown team, but we're in the same boat. I got the Pistons here. It's all good. Clippers side though, DFS, like I said, you have to load up at least 3, 4 of these guys. Reggie Jackson, Eric Bledsoe are the 1-2 in terms of fantasy options tonight. Both are super affordable. Marcus Morris, Terrence Mann, Luke Kennard, Zubac, all in play. Coffee at 3.1K. Like, all these guys are in play. If you're playing tournaments, make sure you get some exposure to this game. This is the spot that you want in DFS. The superstar is out. All these guys are going to be here to soak up the usage, and the team's still favored. So it's not like you're going to expect them to get their ass kicked because their superstars out. Like, they're still favored in this game. So it's the ideal spot. It's the standalone late game too. So it's a great nightcap for DFS lineups.
All right. Now, Travis talks about this a lot when he comes on. And, when I first started, I thought, oh, you always have to run it back, right? But he talks about you don't always have to run it back. Is this an example, right? Because I look through, there's not a lot of Kings I want. They're not hurt. I think the minutes are going to be equally distributed. Can we get away with no run back here, or am I missing some value on some Kings?
Yeah, see, this is a situation where I don't think it's absolutely necessary to have a run back. Certain spots where you're going to play a superstar, um, like if you're going to play a guy like Trey Young tonight, that's a good example. If you're going to play a guy like Trey Young tonight, you're going to want some Pacers in your lineups because he's going to be low owned. You want a back and forth type matchup here with the Pacers. So you're going to look to Sabonis or Brogdon to play with a guy like Trey Young. But in this situation where it's just a injury situation where all these guys are now super underpriced because of their new role without the high usage guy, you don't have to force in a run back here.
All right. So there we go. There you have it. And that's why it was nice to have that game last. And then that game's actually a standalone showdown as well, right? So I think I might actually dabble on that.
Yep.
I know you've been doing really well with the showdowns. And of course, on Run Pure Sports, there is the showdown section, especially, hey, you got a lot of stuff going on. You're not going to get home till 7 or 10, depending on where you live at. Maybe you just want to do that one and just sweat out one game. So remember, head on over to runpuresports.com. Use the promo code GETBETS. You'll get, of course, access to all the cores, all the plays in the Discord. And with the GetBets promo code, the bet side comes for free. So you get access to my plays, Tyler's plays, the Sports Keg plays, all the great things we have to offer at runpuresports.com. With that being said, let us move on to the best bets. Tyler, we'll start with you. What's your best bet for the day?
I'm going to make two. I'm going to go with that Giannis over 12.5 rebounds because I don't see anybody keeping him off the boards in that game. And I'm also going to go with the Monty Morris over 19.5 points, rebounds, and assists because there's only one other guard in that rotation. Unless he gets into foul trouble, he should put up numbers for us.
Yeah, I mean, that's like Ginger and Marianne. How could you choose? So I'm like that you're giving out two. Hoop, what's your best bet of the day?
I'm going to go back to that Nuggets game. I'm taking the Nuggets. Yep. I think they smash in this spot. Like I said, it's going to be a more condensed maybe rotation with some of those guys out, but it's guys that are familiar with this offense: Campazzo, Monty Morris. Give me the Nuggets. I'll make a few DFS plays too here.
Yeah, sure. Who would you start the lineup?
Yeah, we'll do, going to that Clippers game, I think most lineups should start with Reggie Jackson and Eric Bledsoe. Those are going to be the obvious plays. I'm going to go to the Rockets. Kevin Porter. I really like Kevin Porter here. And then on the other side of that game, I like SGA now without Giddey. So you get the popular guys there in the Clippers. You get, Reggie Jackson, Eric Bledsoe. And then a little, mini game stack there, Kevin Porter Jr. and Gilgeous-Alexander. So.
All right, I'm going to start one up right now. We will see how it fares. For my best bet, I'm going to take the Atlanta Hawks money line. I mean, you can grab the +1. I just bring it down if it lands on one. You can cuss me out in the chat box tomorrow. But I like the money line there. I think the Atlanta Hawks get it done at a little less juice than paying the +1 or the +1.5. So that is my best bet for the day. You know what, Tyler? I completely forgot, and we won't do it today because it's too late. We are going to be doing promotions where we're going to give out a T-shirt. So, guys, remind me tomorrow, and we'll do that throughout the whole show, and then hopefully we'll have that up and running. Hoop, I did a little bit with Holden and Travis this morning, so running a little late, but so glad to have you on, Hoop. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find more of your content for the rest of the week?
Yeah, I mean, we got the show on the Run Pure Sports channel, Hardwood show every day, 4:45 Eastern. We have all our content, playbook, core plays, cash chart, AP's heat map that all goes up, a couple hours before lock, starting a couple hours before lock, up to lock. Head on over and check out all the content at runpuresports.com.
All right, Tyler, do you have a message for the people before we sign off?
No, not really. Just be ready for that prop show on Friday. We missed it last week because I was on vacation, but we'll be back this Friday, and then we'll be live for the Sunday NFL slate. So just tune in for all that.
Yep, that's right. So please like the video, subscribe to the channel. You will get notified when we go live. Tyler and I will be back tomorrow at 3:30. No, tomorrow is Thursday. I'll be back at 2:30 with JSU. Remember, JSU does do an NFL Showdown show, which is why we accommodate him, but we want to have him, his wisdom, his views, and, of course, his ability to break down these games so quickly. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. But, hey, these things change, times change. That's why it's great to be subscribed to the channel. So subscribe to the channel. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and run.